So you've just clicked this link to watch a video how to create a graph of your data. And let's go to the linked group data spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on that, and that takes me to this. And this is actually not this current year, this is a previous year's. But what I'm going to do is take a look at this information. These are my materials. So you need to go to File and then make a copy. And make a copy of this year, whatever this year, current year's data is. So pause this, go ahead and do that. Once you've made that copy, then I'm going to select this row, and I'm going to copy that. So Control C, copy that, and I'm just going to paste it somewhere down here. And I'm going to label this materials. Now you're going to have the option to graph really whatever you want and then explain why you graphed what you graphed. If you want to graph material versus the amount of force required to break it, go ahead and graph that. If you want to graph it versus length, well, that's really not all that interesting. That should have been an 8 there, because they're all the same length. That was the length that we broke them at this current year. If you want to do it based off deflection before it broke, moment of inertia, modulus of elasticity, which is stiffness of the material, then graph those, but you just need to be able to explain that. So if I choose to graph this on modulus, then let me highlight this one, and I copied it, and I'm going to paste it down here, and I'm going to write modulus. And now to graph this, I'm going to click and drag, select both of those rows, click insert, and then insert a chart. And it actually recommends the one that I'm actually most interested in. And so this shows modulus versus materials. I'm going to insert this, and so to move it to the front here. And right now I have a graph that shows my styrofoam pieces, my 0-inch styrofoam unidirectional, bidirectional, half-inch uni and bi, 2-inch uni and bi, and then in this particular year we did not have a 4-inch unidirectional. But this shows the stiffness of all these different materials. So if I were going to do this graph and copy this, and so I'm going to screenshot this and then paste that into my answer here, right down here. Then I should explain why modulus is significant and what this information teaches me, and particularly how there's a difference between the 2-inch unidirectional and 2-inch bidirectional, how one of them, according to modulus, which means stiffness of the material, stiffness before it actually breaks or has permanent deformation, why this one is more stiff than this, and why this is more stiff than this, and so on, and what that actually tells me. And also looking at a 4-inch piece here versus a 4-inch piece here, not quite double the stiffness. But if I look at a 2-inch, way more than double. So there's a lot of things that you can talk about, and that's just with modulus. So I'm going to click this, I'm going to delete it. If I wanted to graph something different, like let's say force, copy that, paste that down here, and now I select them and I insert a chart. And now I can discuss how force changes, and that's force until it breaks, how that changes with the different material types. So go ahead and choose whichever graph you want, and after you've done that, you've created the graph showing material versus something you choose, then explain why you graphed what you did and how that information is useful for someone who wants to make a styrofoam fiberglass composite. So make sure you are detailed in your explanation and that you talk about your understanding of basic aircraft components, thinking of the wings and the fuselage and the stabilizers, and maybe you're talking about like a light personal aircraft, and then functions of the aircraft, as the wings have to provide lift, they have to have certain thicknesses, and there's also benefits and drawbacks to having certain thicknesses as far as overall size and overall weight. So those are all things that you might want to put into your discussion.